Pope Francis does a 180 on Ukraine. Supreme Court justices get doxed by pro-abort activists, and Peppermint Patty sides with them. This young, delicate thing is not at all happy, but wait until you hear why not. There's a new current thing in town called World War III, so French military brass declare war on Russia. Hello again, ladies and gentlemen. I am Michael Matt, and this is the Remnant Underground. A couple of things before we start tonight's program. I will be in Naples, Florida, next week, speaking for the Naples chapter of SCOUS. What is the date next Thursday?
May 12th.
May 12th. May 12th. Hope to see you there. Also, next month, we are going to be in France. We talked about this, leading the U.S. chapter on the Chartres pilgrimage. We're going back inside behind enemy lines. No, we are not jabbed, so it'll be interesting at the airport. But yeah, this is it. People talk about uniting the clans as though that's something in the future. It always makes me laugh. It's a fait accompli. It's done. I mean, we've been doing it for 30 years, walking across from Paris to Chartres, at the Chartres Cathedral. It's such a magnificent event. I hope everyone out there appreciates this as a major, major victory for all of you. It is not just for those who are there. This is a huge statement, especially after Traditionis Custodes with the Vatican cracking down on the Latin Mass. We're back. There are going to be 10,000 of us in Chartres at a major traditional Latin Mass. This is a victory for you, for everybody. So pray for that. Maybe I'll see some of you there on the road to Chartres next month. Also, please don't forget the Catholic Identity Conference in Pittsburgh. It's going to happen in last part of September, early October, I should say.
September 30th
Yeah.
through October 2nd.
October 2nd, okay. Check that CatholicIdentityConference.org for the details on that. Registration is now open. It's going to be a really big deal. So with that, I'd like to begin tonight's program. I guess we should be battening down the hatches because the peaceful protesters, the defenders of democracy, don't you know, they are threatening to hit Catholic churches. I think this weekend, if this program airs in time, watch your back at Mass tomorrow, if we get this out on Saturday. Because they're upset. There's this very, very slim chance that Roe v. Wade may be struck down. And of course, this is sending them into apoplexy because this would leave the legality of murdering babies up to the individual states to decide. Even the victories now are so slim, that we're just hoping that states will decide not to kill babies in 2020. 2022, we're so advanced. It's just unbelievable. And this is a reminder, once again, this is a reminder that the most progressive and scientific and enlightened people on the planet are still basically committing infanticide. And you got a handful that are trying to do something about that. So there's a lot of good that can be good takeaways that we can, that we can discuss and hope and pray for the best on that. Because the problem is, and I mean this with all my heart, the most benighted, enlightened people on the planet, the pro-abortion people, they are not taking this decision, what's happening in the Supreme Court, they're not taking this lying down. Or perhaps in their case, we should say they're not taking it hanging upside down peacefully in their caves. They're ticked off. They look like this.
Question. Answer the question. Journalists, ask them the question. Ask them. Ask them.
Isn't it amazing?
God, ask them the question. God.
Isn't it amazing that not one Democrat has shown 1% of the passion that Anna has today?
They don't care.
They don't care.
They don't care. They're all so old, they don't even have to worry about it affecting them. And if they're young enough where it would affect them, they'll get their abortion.
They're going to fly to
They're
Paris.
trading individual stocks, enriching themselves. They're good. They're good. They don't care about you.
Oh, man. Now, this delicate young thing is concerned that Democrats are not shutting down the pro-life American folks fast enough. She's really mad at her own party there for not doing enough. The, again, benighted, enlightened, you see, must be allowed, under the protection of law, to eat their young, because that's what benighted, enlightened people do. It's called science, I believe. Follow the science. The science says women should kill babies, and we need to follow the science now because, well, we're enlightened. And this shouldn't surprise anyone coming from that character whose co-host has been around forever. I can't believe he's still popular to some degree, but He also is a big follower of the science. Here's where the science has taken this young Turk.
I believe that if I were the benevolent dictator of the world, I would legalize bestiality.
We told you there's no stopping these people. There's no stopping them. Eventually, it's going to be infanticide. It's going to be, literally just killing 10-year-old kids or whatever, just because my way or the highway, because we are the ones that get to do whatever we want. It's all coming. And it's so funny, the whole country, half the country, freaking out. My body, my choice. These are the same clowns who've been saying it's not your choice when it comes to the jab. But of course, logic, any kind of contradiction like that, they're not going to catch it because they're filled with rage, filled with hate. It's just getting so very, very old. And the thing is, they're always looking at us and talking about how the right is hateful and dangerous, locking up people from the stupid January 6th event indefinitely, I guess, without due process at all. And yet these folks on the left, what did we just see other than triggering people? Can you imagine what rhetoric like that? She's fuming and screaming and blah, 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 doing this at these folks. Most of her fans are looking at that. They're getting triggered, right? That's how it works. But if you're a leftist, apparently it doesn't matter. She's triggering her fans to break into Catholic churches now and do a little hating on the churchgoers. Is anybody worried about this?
Members of the Antifa also hurled bottles and trash cans at believers. One of them was seriously injured and had to be hospitalized.
Yeah, here come the harpies. This is what they look like. This is the voice of reason, choice, and tolerance in America.
I'm trying to stay calm with the situation going on, but it is very terrifying, I'll tell you that. I'll tell you another thing. These old geezers in offices are not going to tell us women what to do with our own bodies. We do what is best for us. So spread the word. Mother's Day strike starting May the 8th.
Take a breath, maybe get some help. I don't know, sweetheart. We feel for you. And you're not the problem. You're just another one of the casualties. You're just another very predictable little effect. The cause is what's concerning to us. And in this case, the cause, what concerns us most is that these poor, unhinged little waifs, products of public education, of course, they're actually being egged on by the adults in the room. And by the adults, I mean the Biden administration. I'll give you a case in point, an example. The pro-abortion group Ruth Sent Us just published, and this is in the news now, you've heard this, but think about this. Think about this. They just published the home addresses of the conservative justices on the United States Supreme Court, saying on their own website, we must rise up to force accountability using a diversity of tactics. What's that supposed to mean? A diversity of tactics. Well, it might mean a lot of things. It might mean bricks. It might mean Molotov cocktails, burning down cities again like they were doing, a couple of years ago, right? So I'm sure, given that we are now talking about the Supreme Court justices of the United States of America, I am sure the FBI is all over this one, right? This is an implicit and posted on the internet threat against the Supreme Court justices of the United States, putting their home addresses on there, hoping nothing goes wrong, of course, because they're peaceful. Nobody hurts the justices. We just want to have a little peaceful protest outside their homes. We saw here in Minneapolis how the peaceful protesters work out. People die when they begin peacefully protesting now. So this is a threat. So, of course, the White House must be responding, right? No, not quite so much. Peppermint Patty, in fact, remained strangely calm in the face of this threat to our national security at the level of the Supreme Court. Here's Peppermint.
So he doesn't care if they're protesting outside the Supreme Court or outside someone's private residence.
I don't have an official U.S. government position on where people protest. We want it, of course, to be peaceful. And certainly the president would want people's privacy to be respected. But I think we shouldn't lose the point here. The reason people are protesting is because women across the country are worried about their fundamental rights that have been law for 50 years. Their rights to make choices about their own bodies and their own health care are at risk. That's why people are protesting. They're unhappy. They're scared.
Can you imagine Jen Peppermint Patty showing such restraint with respect to the January 6th protest? Can you imagine her standing out there and saying, yeah, well, I think we shouldn't lose the point here because people across this country are unhappy on January 6th. You see, they're scared. Can you imagine?
Because this MAGA crowd is really the most extreme political organization that's existed in American history.
I don't know, buddy. I think maybe your racism is showing a little bit. Be careful with that. I know you're getting older, so you're losing track of stuff, but you might remember the White Hoods and all that, the KKK guys. Yeah. They might be a little worse than the half the country that voted for Donald Trump, don't you think, Guy? Maybe. Bottom line, friends, when you hear this kind of rhetoric, dangerous, reckless, stupid rhetoric, triggering rhetoric coming from the President of the United States of America, it's no wonder that radicals are being triggered.
Hey folks, thanks so much for watching. If you like more Michael Matt, you can follow him on Facebook and also on Twitter.
Boom. Yeah.
Nailed it.
Nice.
Thanks, man.
Now, last week we talked a little bit about Elon Musk. I think everybody pretty much understood where we were coming from. That show did really well. But at the same time, a lot of you were saying, like, don't fall for it. Don't trust Musk. Give me these really strong and dire warnings. And my response is, did you watch the show? Because trust him for what? I'm not suggesting that you put Elon Musk in charge of your homeschool co-op. I'm not saying you got to trust him. It really doesn't matter, for example, if we like Musk or we don't like Musk or we think he's part of the New World Order, he's a transhumanist, all these things. He's an extremely broken human being. He's an atheist. He doesn't believe in God. So I really don't think anyone in this audience is going to fall for Elon Musk. I don't think it's going to happen. Suddenly decide you want to abandon religion and try to get to Mars. I doubt that's going to happen, you see? But the point is, the World Economic Forum, Bill Gates, Joe Biden, they are viciously attacking Elon Musk. And as I said last, I'm going to look at why. Gates literally tried to short sell Tesla. The shares for Tesla, tried to bankrupt Elon Musk. And what do you think he's going to do, a guy like that? He's a pretty competitive guy. He's going to fight back. That is an opportunity. That's interesting. So just pop the corn, friends. Because do you remember what was going on over the past 2 years? Can you imagine if Twitter and Facebook had been open places for open dialogue and free speech over the past 2 years? The whole thing wouldn't have happened. It would have collapsed. They spent 2 years shutting us down. And now with Twitter in the hands of a guy who, at least he says, wants it to be free speech, wants to defend free speech, these lunatics of lockdown just lost their stranglehold on media, certainly on social media. A stranglehold that we all know from personal experience enabled the entire COVID lockdown. Remember all this? It does matter, whatever Elon Musk is and isn't, and what he believes and doesn't believe. So I don't think Twitter is going to save the world, but it sure can't hurt to help free it up a little bit, right? I mean, you agree with that. Just think where the frontline doctors might have been, or Robert Kennedy, with their message, had there not been a social media blackout on most of what they were trying to say and do over the past couple of years. And of course, in Musk's case, again, it's not just free speech. As we pointed out last week, Elon Musk has declared war on the foundational principle, the sacred credo of the entire Bill Gates cabal.
There are not enough people. I can't emphasize this enough. There are not enough people. If people don't have more children, civilization is going to crumble. Mark my words.
So you don't have to say, well, I'm going to guess as to where Musk is, what he's really thinking. You can just look at what you know from human nature. What he's saying right there threatens their whole agenda. And the reality is, at the moment, the entire COVID narrative is falling apart. The FDA just announced that it is limiting the authorization of the Johnson & Johnson COVID-19 vaccine to people under age 18, citing the risk of rare blood clots. Now, I'm not going to say anything because my friends at YouTube won't let me. But this is the FDA talking now. If the FDA is willing to say this, imagine how much more to this story there must be. It's starting to fall apart. Where's Fauci? I'm sure Fauci's going to try to, re-enter the situation in the fall, but right now, he's just another meme, as is Klaus Schwab, right? It's time to get back to what works for these guys, and that looks like it's going to be war. So we're going to start talking about war, obviously, once again. In fact, France's military high command just put out a very sobering statement, which we'll put down here below in the links, basically putting the French troops on high alert, saying that we live in a new epoch of war in Europe, and that because of Russia being bad, 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 we must be prepared for anything, says the statement, including war. French soldiers must prepare. The probability of a major commitment has increased considerably. Our preparation must enable us to win the war before the war and, if circumstances require, to be ready to engage in a high-intensity confrontation. Seriously? Manny Macron, little Mr. Globalist leader? Your fearless leader's lunatical Great Reset is worth you helping to blow the hell out of France and Europe all over again? Really? And why are they all doing this? Isn't it obvious why they're doing this? They're doing this, friends, as we said on this show 2 months ago. Russia has disrupted the Great Reset. And again, don't take my word for it. You look all around, you can see proof of this. That's what they think. That's what they believe. That's what Schwab believes. That's what all these guys believe. Russia is a huge problem because he's not going along with the show, with the game plan. So BlackRock's CEO, Larry Fink, said that the Russian invasion of Ukraine has put an end to the globalization we have experienced over the last 3 decades. Russia's aggression in Ukraine and its decoupling from the global economy is going to prompt companies and governments worldwide to reevaluate their dependencies and reanalyze their manufacturing and assembly footprints. You see what he's saying? They're breaking up globalism. If Russia can stay strong on its own, if Russia can get its own manufacturing up, its own energy independently, to say nothing of independent banks, this whole thing falls apart. This great new world order, great reset nonsense falls right on its lower spinal extremity. And that's what Putin's trying to do. They pushed him too hard. They pushed him too fast. They have a tendency to do that, these globalist lunatics, because they're all, well, they're farting dust. They're getting old. And these guys, these globalists, Schwab type, we've done a lot of things with him. Musk, all this is not a slick person. Bill Gates, his hands waving, well, making stuff up about science. He's not a scientist, he's not a doctor, but he's just doing all this stuff, playing with people's. This is not a slick person. Just ask his wife. And he gets caught with Jeffrey Epstein. I mean, what a lunatic. So let's stop giving them omniscience. Let's stop pretending as though they can never be beat. They're little nerds, friends. So they sat around playing with their computers all night long, programming computers with their pocket protectors. And now they got some sort of weird God complex and they want revenge on all the studs and the football players and the athletes and the jocks, right? It's kind of what's going on. When a guy like Putin saw through it. He saw through it a long time ago. Say what you will about Vlad the Bad, but he's all alpha male. He's all toxic masculinity. I'm not too terribly impressed, like, Schwab, and whatever he's doing. They're really struggling to get their reset off the ground. They're struggling to get their stupid electric cars going. They're struggling with all of this stuff because nobody wants it. And if they don't have something like COVID to scare you into it, nobody's going to buy it. And they know that. Russia's going rogue. And as we said on this show 2 months ago, the regime in Ukraine was a Barack Obama, Lindsey Graham, John McCain, neocon, Joe Biden puppet show since 2014. And it was set up to take Russia down. As we said at the time, when globalists tell you, Nancy Pelosi and Biden and all these people, when they tell you to hate something, to believe something, to love something, to fear something, whether it be COVID, Putin, or the right to kill babies, it's for a reason. It's to serve their globalist agenda. Feel free to ignore it and do the opposite. That's how we got this right here at Remnant TV. We got the Ukraine situation right out of the gate, because those people lie every time they open their mouths. And this is all part of their Great Reset. And so you'll remember in that same video on Ukraine, we took Pope Francis to task. Why? Because he was carrying water once again for the globalists. So we took him to task for it. Lots of people took him to task for it. And enough of Francis. And what do you know? Francis changed his tune.
Pope Francis lit up the internet yesterday after he said that NATO, barking at Russia's door, aided in Putin's invasion of Ukraine. The Pope also revealed he offered to meet with the Russian president weeks ago, but did not receive a response. And it turns out even the Pope isn't immune from being labeled a conspiracy theorist. Mainstream media said the Pope, quote, veered toward conspiracy theory as he blamed the international community for instigating the war.
Yep, that's right, Francis. And by the way, that's exactly what we were saying in the Remnant Underground 2 months ago. Look, friends, I don't enjoy criticizing Francis. I've told you this before. As a cradle Catholic, it's so bizarre, it's so weird, it's embarrassing to have to be taking issue with this guy Francis as much as we do. But let me tell you this, if Pope Francis, if he were to wake up and begin ruling as an actual Christian moral authority tomorrow, I would become his most outspoken and ardent defender. There is nothing in this world that I want more. But until that happens, a Catholic like me needs to speak out. Until these guys change, and no matter what happens, you need to speak out, whether you're talking about Joe Biden or Klaus Schwab or whoever it is. Your local pastor, your priest, your rabbi, if he's selling this nonsense, if your local priest or bishop is trying to do the synodal church thing and talking about all this globalist nonsense, get up and walk out. That is the point, friends. And also, the other point is to point to some of these things, some of the disintegration of their grand schemes. You know, I'm talking about the globalists. And to not ascribe to them superhuman power. Stop this. And everybody likes to talk about the apocalypse and you got it all figured out and this is the false prophet of Revelation and I know exactly what this and what that is and it's the end and it's a mark of the... Maybe it is, maybe it isn't, but we need to fight. Nobody knows for sure. Our Lord said, you know not the day nor the time, right? When the end comes. The end of the world might be 100 years from now, might be 1,000 years from now. Our job is not to predict the end of the world. Our job is to fight the evil that's in front of us right now, that's confronting the world right now. I'm sorry, friends, but just like a guy like Rogan's doing and other people in media like this, they're actually confronting the demon in their own way while we're sitting there saying, don't say anything because it's the end of the world. I read the apocalypse. I know what's going on here. There's no precedent for that. We gotta fight this. You know, because right now, as we speak, there is a worldwide army, you know, of average, regular, patriotic, God-fearing people, just like you, just like me. And we are all over the world right now. And we are on to these globalists. As I said, we don't want what they're selling. We're not buying what they're selling. They have had enough. We've all had enough. What it means is there's a massive opportunity here. I say this practically every program because I see people, I talk to people all over the world. People have had enough. Even Francis, when he took enough heat, suddenly changed his tune. People say, you got to stay optimistic. Of course you got to stay optimistic. They tried to shut the Catholic Church down 50 years ago. They took away the Latin Mass. They took away our raison d'etre. They took away our identity as Catholics. We dug in, this little remnant of believers. And now Francis is trying to shut us down still officially. He's freaking out over what the traditional Catholic people have done. Really, in a way, we should have disappeared 50 years ago. We didn't disappear. We kept fighting because nobody ever was able to convince us to give up. And we're still fighting and we're making advances. All of this, friends, means, whether it's politics or in the church, that there has never been a better time than right now to take to the streets and to raise the standard of Christ the King with confidence. We're going to win this war. We need to go out and get that message out to people so they will be emboldened and encouraged to stand up, do the right thing, speak out, say what needs to be said. Do not despair, do not surrender, but go to war. You know what? We might, in our lifetimes even, see the victory that we all want so much right now. Friends, that's what we got to do. Thanks very much for listening. I'm Michael Matt from Remnant TV. Watch your backs this weekend with these lunatic pro-abortion people threatening Catholic churches. Watch your back. And always remember that God wins in the end. So long live Christ the King, and we'll see you next week.